Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ya ayyuhal muslimun. To the long-time listener and first-time visitor, we welcome you to this episode. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah, nabiyyina Muhammad, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, wa man tamassaka bi sunnatihi ila yawmiddin. Thumma amma ba'd. Ya ibadullah, don't run off at the mouth and beat regret to the punch. This is a marriage hack 101, Naam. And it is really obvious, this concept. But inshallah ta'ala, let us reflect, because there was a story that had taken place. And when I say story, I mean this is an historical event. Okay, this is an incident that really took place in real life. Ala kulli hal, it involves theft. It involves someone running off at the mouth. And it involves murder. So I want us to reflect on this incident and take from it some lessons of benefits so that we don't end up murdering our marriages in a proverbial sense. Okay. This was a situation where qatala Dabba bin Ada al-Harith bin Ka'b, a situation where Dabba bin Ada, he killed al-Harith bin Ka'b. And it is said fi Muslim al-Hajj, it was during the time of Hajj. Naam. وَذَلِكَ انتقاما. And the reason he did this was in revenge. In revenge for what? Libni Sa'id. It was in revenge for his son Sa'id. الَّذِي قَتَلَهُ al-Harith bin Ka'b, because al-Harith bin Ka'b, he killed Sa'id unjustly. He killed him, right? This story has some very, strange aspects to it, in the sense that Al-Harith, the one who was the murderer, the one who killed Sa'id, he ends up being the one who narrates the story of what he did to Sa'id's father, Dabba. He's the one who tells on himself ultimately, okay? And it has another strange aspect and element to it, in the sense that Dabba qatala al-Harith. Dabba killed Harith bin-nafsin sayf, with the same sword that al-Harith killed Sa'id with. So this story is strange, and a lot comes from it. But also what comes from this story, there are 3 proverbs that come from this story. 3 proverbs come from this story. The first of them is the proverb of today's lesson that we want to look at today, inshallah ta'ala, and is the centerpiece for today's lesson. And that is the proverb of Sabaqa al-Sayfu al-Adl. That what literally translated means is that the sword, Sabaqa al-Sayfu al-Adl, that the sword beat regret. The sword has proceeded and beat regret. Okay? And inshallah ta'ala, we're going to come to see how this proverb is properly used and how it's to be properly understood. So this is the first proverb that comes from this incident, that comes from this story. The next proverb that comes from this story, as we'll come to see, is As'ad am Sa'id, right? Which is like it's in a question form. And the last of it, and basically how this is used in a win-loss situation. The next and the third proverb that comes from this incident is Al-Hadithu Dhu Shujun, which means 8 turuq. That hadith, it has 8 turuq, it has ways. What this commonly means is Al-Hadith Yajri Ba'dahu Ba'dan. That hadith, it flows. Speech, it flows. Speech flows. Meaning, or as we will say, that speech, it flows, meaning someone runs off at the mouth. They just keep talking and talking and talking. Okay? And as we know, there's a lot of harm that, could result in this. But inshallah ta'ala, let's look at the story, let's look at this incident so that we can see what happened. Firstly, let's get some background on it. This incident had taken place between Ihda Qaba'il. It has taken place between one of the tribes of the Arab from the stand of the Adnaniyya. And the Adnani Arabs, they were the ones who they descend from Ismail bin Ibrahim alayhimus salatu wassalam. They are the descendants of Ibrahim through his son Ismail alayhimus salatu wassalam. So these are the Arabs that come from Ismail. Okay? So one of these tribes, Bani Dabba, which was Bani Dabba, one of the main characters is Dabba. Dabba, he had two sons. One of his sons was Sa'd, and the other son was Sa'id. So one was Sa'd, and the other one was Sa'id. Okay? So there was one night where he went out, and he kharaja Dabba. He went out to bring in his camels, or he went out to graze his camels, right? So his camels could graze in the pasture or what have you, or to gather them in. وَمَعَهُ أَبْنَائِهِ, and he had with him his sons on that particular night. Because of course it was a lot of camels, so he needed the help. So he took with him his sons. But أَثْنَى سَيْدِهِمْ, and when they were walking, when they were out tending to the camels, تَفَرَّقَتِ الْإِبِلِ, the camels, they started to scatter in every direction. Some went this way, some went that way. So naturally, Dabba, he asked his sons to go after the camels, to go after the camels and to bring them in. فَذَهَبَ سَعِيد يعني في جهة. So Sa'id, he went one direction to get these camels, and Sa'id, he went to the other. So Sa'id went in one direction, and Sa'id, he went in the other direction to get the camels. Okay? But what happened was, after a little bit of time had passed, بعد القليل عاد سعد. After some time had passed, Sa'd came back. And he had with him the camel. But Sa'id, he didn't return. Sa'd came back, and he had with him the camel. And hence comes the proverb, As'ad am Sa'id. As'ad am Sa'id. Which is used in a win-loss scenario, because he's happy that Sa'd has come back. He's returned. But he's sad because Sa'id didn't return. So he's happy and he won with the return of Sa'd. But he's sad and he lost because Sa'id has yet to return. Ala kulli hal, while Sa'id was out chasing after and trying to gather up all of the camels, he ran into, yeah, you guessed it, Al-Harith bin Ka'b. He ran into Al-Harith bin Ka'b. Now, Sa'id, he had on him barudain, a ibayatain. He had on him like two cloaks, but they were distinct. They were distinct cloaks. They weren't your average or the ordinary. They were distinct, kind of unique a little bit. Okay? So, of course, Al-Harith, being the creep that he is, طَلَبَهُمَا مِنْهُ. He told him, give me these cloaks. Give them to me. Give me these cloaks. And of course, Sa'id, وَلَكِنَّ سَعِيدًا وَرَفَضَ. He refused. He said, no, I'm not giving you my cloaks. For what? I'm not giving you my cloaks. فَقَامَ عَلَيْهِ. So he rushed him, Al-Harith, فَقَتَلَهُ. فَقَتَلَهُ الْحَارِث وَأَخَذَ الْبَرُدَيْنِ ثُمَّ مَضَى. So Al-Harith, he pounced upon him. He killed him. He took the two cloaks and he left. وَمِنْ وَقْتِهَا. And from that time, لَمْ يَسْمَعْ ضَبَّ شَيْءٌ عَنْ إِبْنِهِ. He didn't hear anything about his son. So لَا يَدْرِي إِلَى أَيْنَ رَحِلْ. He didn't know where did he go. What direction was he? He didn't even know where to look, where to begin looking. And he didn't know what happened to him. He didn't know anything about his son. So you know the agony this will cause for a father. You know the pain this will cause for a parent. Okay? Especially, knowing that he went out to help you and so on and so forth. And now, something potentially bad has really happened to him. Ala kulli hal, he didn't hear any news of his son until one day. حتى جاء يوم خرج فيه الضبة إلى سوق عكاظ. Until one day when Dabba, he went out to the Suq Ikad. And this Suq, it was a meeting area of the Arab and it was in a valley that had in it a palm tree named a Kalb. And it was between Mecca and Ta'if. Okay? So he went out there. He was going to this particular meeting place, this particular area, this particular suq. And he ran into, yep, you guessed it, Al-Harith. He ran into Al-Harith bin Ka'b. And when he ran into him, he saw the two cloaks that were very distinct and recognizable. He saw these two cloaks and he knew these are the cloaks of Sa'id. These are Sa'id's cloaks. But he didn't rush to any judgment or anything like that, right? So he went and he stopped him. He stopped Al-Harith and he asked him about these cloaks. فَأَوْقَفَ الرَّجُلُ فَسَأَلَهُ عَنْهُمَا. He stopped him and he asked him about these cloaks. Now, Al-Harith, being the genius that he is, he starts to what? Run off at the mouth. And hence comes the other proverb in the story, Al-Hadith dhu sujun. That words, sometimes they just start flowing, right? They start flowing. They start running off at the mouth. So Al-Harith, he started to tell on himself. And as we know, speaking too much is not good. Like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he directed us where he said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wa yawmil akhir falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut." That whoever believes in Allah on the last day, then let him speak good or what? Or be quiet. Don't say anything. Say something good or be quiet. But this one, Al-Harith, no, not so much. So what did he do? He started running off at the mouth. So he says, إِنَّهُ مَالُ غُلَامٍ. Oh, these cloaks, they used to belong to this young man. فَقَبَلْتُهُ لَيْلًا. So I met him. I ran into him one night. So now look, he's telling on himself. I ran into him one night. فَلَمَّا طَلَبَهُمَا مِنْهُ رَفَض. And when I asked him for these cloaks, he had the nerve to refuse me. فَقَتَلْتُهُ وَأَخَذْتُهُمَا. He said, وَأَخَذْتُهُمَا. He said, so I killed them. I took them. مُنصَرِفًا. And then I left in haste. I took them. I killed them. I took them and I left. I got out of there. So, of course, the father now, he's listening to this story. He already sees the cloaks on him. He knows these are the cloaks of Sa'id. And the man actually done told on himself and admitted to what he had done. So what do you think the father did? What do you think the father did? Of course, he flew off at the handle. But first, before doing that, before flying off on the handle, he kind of played it a little smooth, right? So he saw that he had a sword on him, that Al-Harith had a sword. Now, Al-Harith, being the bragger guy that he is, the one who talked too much, right? He knew he's going to let me see this sword. So he asked him, فَطَلَبَ مِنْهُ السَّيْفَ الَّذِي كَانَ يَحْمِلُهُ لِيُرَاهُ. He said, he asked him for the sword that he had so he could see it, you know. Oh, wow, look at that sword you got there. Can I see it? Now, of course, this guy's bragging. You know, he's already bragging about something he did and nobody asked him about. So, of course, he hands it over. Yeah, here, check it out. Little did he know. So once Bubba got the sword in his hand, he's examining it, he started hitting Al-Harith with it, and he killed him. He killed him. Now, as he's killing him, now he's doing this in front of, broad daylight in public. He's just murdering this man in front of everybody. So, of course, the ongoers, the lookers, they're saying to him, they say, if it's shahr al-haram ya Bubba. They say, Bubba, you killing this man in a sacred month? During this month, there's no killing. There's no murder. There's no killing right now. You killing him now? And that's when Bubba said the famous words, سَبَقَ الصَّيْفُ الْعَذَلِ. That the sword has beat regret. And there are many things we can understand from this proverb. The sword has beat regret, meaning what? It's spilt milk, man. What's done is done. What you're saying now, he already dead, right? But the overall meaning of this proverb is think twice before you act. Because sometimes people will put themselves in situations where it doesn't help them to feel sorry. Regret does not help. This is what is meant by it, is a reminder. Slow down before you act. Think about what you're about to do carefully. Think about what it may result in. Don't put yourself in a situation where being sorry and regretful will not help you. Because at that point, it's too late. It's over. It's beyond that. It's too late to apologize. Too late to say sorry. What's the result is the result. Okay? Now, as relates to marriage, this is very important. Two of these concepts very important. The first of the concept is the concept of talking too much. Al-hadith, that, speech, dhul sujun. Speech, it flows, meaning don't put yourself in a situation where you're running off at the mouth and you're talking, and you talk yourself into a divorce. You talk, smoke clears your divorce. Don't put yourself in a situation. And likewise, don't put yourself in a situation where you destroy your family unnecessarily, as such that sorrow is not going to help you. Think about the man who divorced his wife for the third time, irrevocable divorce. How many of the fatwa do you hear about where individuals who have divorced their wife for a third time goes from sheikh to ask, does this divorce count? Why are they doing that? If you really intended it, you really wanted it, you want it to count. You're not going to ask about it. Now, let's say I already said it count. I said, I don't want to talk about it. It's over. I don't want you. No, they're asking these questions. Why? Because they don't want it to count. They're asking these questions because they're remorseful. They're regretful. They're asking these questions because they know I have divorced this woman for a third time for no reason, really. It's not a real reason. It's not, So they're sad now. They're regretful. They're regretful. They're remorseful over what they have done. But it's too late. It's too late. Regret is not going to help you right now. It's too late. It's already over. So they go and they ask because they're hoping that they get the answer that no, it don't count. They're hoping to get the answer, no, it don't count. And this is a reminder, because usually people like this that reach 3 divorces that fast like that is because divorce is quick on their mouth. The slightest thing, divorce. Divorce. And a lot of times when you look at it, when it comes to marriage, when you look at it, many divorces are due to things that are fixable. Many divorces are due to things that are fixable. You can fix it. You can resolve this. You can get past this issue. But they divorce anyway. Okay? And if you reflect on it, many divorces stem from arguments that were a result of something extremely insignificant. Right? Think about how many divorces come off of an argument, but when you trace back the steps, go back to the beginning. Well, why did you actually start arguing? Well, because this happened. And it could have been something very insignificant. They said something that hurt your feelings. So you fly off at the handle. But what was actually said? Is that worth destroying your whole marriage? Well, no, but my feelings were hurt, so I said whatever, and then what? Start running off at the mouth. Right? So on and so forth. So you have to, each party has to reflect on how many women end up getting khula and then want to go back to the man. Right? Now, to get khula, it has to be for a reason. But the sister get khula, then she comes to the master and say, but I want to marry my husband again. But you asked for a khula, correct? Yeah. Why'd you ask for a khula? The reasons in which you asked for a khula, are they still persistent inside this man? Are they still there? Well, yeah. But you want him back anyway? Well, yeah. Why? Because in reality, these are not reasons they should have asked for a khula for in the first place. There's not a reason you should have asked for a khula for in the first place. Because he lost his job. Now you want khula, you can't take care of a khula. Right? And I don't mean like, her rights are not being fulfilled. I just mean she can't get the vacation she used to get. She can't get the present she used to get. She can't get these, these handbags he used to get from before because he lost a good job. Now he got a little job. So, he just taking care of what he got to take care of. I ain't on my lifestyle no more and all this type of stuff. Now she want khula from a good person just to leave and go with a bad person. Now I'm going to go back to the good person. It happens, unfortunately. But in this, let's go back. Right? I digress. How often is it the brothers will divorce his wife third time, or the woman will ask for a khula over something that was extremely insignificant, and thus they have murdered their marriage over something very insignificant, something very trivial, something that you didn't have to destroy the whole marriage over that. Destroy the family over what? Something so insignificant. Want to destroy the family. No reason. Now you want to destroy the family. A'udhu billah. This is something that is extremely despicable that we have to try our best to avoid. If we going to have sound marriages, we have to try our best to avoid these things. So there are some things we can do before we find ourselves in this situation. The first thing, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every situation. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every situation. Right? Secondly, think of the consequences before you act. Thirdly, good and open communication. Because how often is it that individuals will fall into arguments, and that argument is set off and ignited due to the fact that there is fuel of resentment that has been building up and growing, of issues that were unresolved, never spoken about, never communicated, just held in until they said something that hurt your feelings, and now the powder keg explodes. Now you start running off at the mouth. You understand? Was it because of that slight that seemingly sparked the argument? No, it's deeper rooted than that. So open communication would alleviate these things. Being honest with each other and having a relationship where you can be honest with each other, but you have to be mature, emotionally mature. You have to be mature to be able to handle these conversations. But these difficult conversations are needed to keep the marriage. These difficult conversations are needed from time to time to maintain the relationship. So this is very important as well. And fourthly, and as we reflect on this story, learn from the regret of others. Learn from the regret of others. Okay? So before you divorce her, before you ask for a divorce, sister, think about it. Make sure. Weigh the pros and the cons. Evaluate the situation. Make sure this is absolutely what is needed. Because as the ulama, they explain, divorce is like amputation. Now, you don't amputate an arm for the slightest injury. Okay? You don't get a scratch on your arm and tell a doctor, oh, that's it. Get the bone saw. Cut it off. That's all. That's it. It got a scratch. Cut it. Cut it all off. You don't do that. But you try your best. Everything you can possibly do to save the limb. You try your best to save the limb. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes divorce is the proper medicine. Sometimes divorce is the proper medicine. Now, but often you find the amputation is not needed. Okay? Often you find amputation is not needed. So be careful and be mindful. Don't murder your marriage over something insignificant. Don't destroy your family over something insignificant. So reflect and remember this statement. سبق السيف الأذل. Don't let your haste beat you to feeling bad. Don't allow yourself to be in a situation where regret won't help. Okay? Don't allow the sword to beat regret. Don't allow that. Don't allow the sword to beat regret. But stand back and relax. Contemplate over your situation before you murder it due to something so insignificant. إلا اللقاء. استودعكم الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.